just the past like 2 weeks shoot up by 45% or something. We are now at the lowest level of unemployment claims that we've had since going through COVID. It is dropping. It's still a lot, 400,000 new people seeking claims, which cuts against the idea that we are out of the woods in terms of unemployment.
Although, I mean, those numbers contradict what McConnell was just saying about how we're seeing these effects in the economy. But
right. The economy is getting better. Like the idea that there's increased demand, it's really just a question of our production capacity, which was everybody shut down because of COVID. Once that gets back up to speed and that supply matches the demand, we're going to be fine. So the inflation, there's no reason to believe this inflation is going to last. However, there's probably going to be a little bit of inflation when it comes to labor, which means that people are going to get paid more. And frankly, to the extent that there is inflation, you've got $1.5, $1.7 trillion worth of student debt out there. If you're holding some of that student debt, if you owe that money, a little bit of inflation is going to be exactly what you want. I mean, for people who have borrowed money, which is a lot of Americans, inflation's not necessarily a bad thing at all. And so he's sitting there worried about stagflation, which, as a reminder, means that there's no economic growth, but prices go up. But here he is leading off with saying that there's this huge demand out there. And so if there's this huge demand and people start to come online with their production and their supply, how do you have a stagnant economy in that situation?
Well, you don't. So, I mean, you're exactly right. Like the stagflation concerns are completely made up. I mean, there's not any scenario in which that is going to happen in the coming months / years. You can talk about inflation all you want, but that concern is overblown, as we've seen even like center lib type economists, like, you know, the people in the Biden administration, Janet Yellen, for example, they've found that those concerns are not that important. You know, it's not going to be determinative of any kind of growth in the economy or lack thereof. And so this is the pivot, though, that you're talking about, Sam.
This is
the pivot. This is from deficits. It was the deficit era of the past, you know, whatever, multiple decades, coming to heights in the Obama era. And now we're in the inflation era of Republican fear-mongering about government spending. To be fair, they also were fear-mongering about inflation in the wake of the 2008 crisis, when we were hearing about quantitative easing 1 and 2 and quantitative easing 3. And Glenn Beck is in front of his blackboard and saying that we are Weimar Germany. And David Stockman, the former budget Office of Management budget under the Reagan administration, was saying that we are just months away from China basically foreclosing on us. And all of that failed to come. Because that's how that works, right? Right. Yeah. But the interesting thing about Ron Johnson, their last thing to say about him, is there may be a reason why no one you're reading is saying there's any validity to the fear of stagflation. And that is because maybe there's just no validity to the fear of stagflation. But they're going to try, they're going to fish around, they're going to muddle through this. And we're going to hear a lot of these stories about, you know, 1,000 jobs that would come to your local town if it wasn't for the fact that people were demanding more than $20 an hour or $22 an hour because of how generous the unemployment benefits will be. That I think is going to fall on deaf ears, because you've got people who are like, I'm getting that money, or those people are spending it in my store, or they're spending it at my business. So, I mean, that money's going somewhere. The people who are getting unemployment checks are not just fattening up their personal savings. They are using it to live and to pay for rent and to pay for the food
So,
I mean, that's documented. But, maybe they're just putting it under their mattress, Sam, just cause, even though they can't make rent or they're not able to buy groceries for their kids, maybe just for fun, they're burying it in the backyard.
Could very well be. That could be the big problem that we're seeing, except for he's also saying there's a huge amount of demand out there.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more after this. Folks, just a reminder, it is your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. Jointhemajorityreport.com. Your membership supports the free show, gets you the free show free of commercials, also gets you the fun half, and also makes it possible for us to say, hey, we don't like that advertiser, or we do like that advertiser, but we can't support them anymore because we found out that they're doing production. I'm just harping on that because that's why we didn't have an ad yesterday, and why we'll only have 2 tomorrow. But be that as it may, it is our members who allow us to keep on keeping on, as it were. So become a member today. Join themajorityreport.com. Also check out the Discord, majoritydiscord.com. Check it out. We've got a great, thriving community of Majority Report listeners. It's a great resource for a ton of different things, not just conversation, but also, where can you get, where can you start doing, mutual aid, or how can I get involved in politics in San Antonio? I'm making up the San Antonio part. Maybe, but somebody should go into the Discord and do that.
John, potentially.
Yes, there you go. All right, folks. Also, don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. And lastly, AM Quickie. Check out the AM Quickie every morning, 6-7 minutes in the morning. It's there when you wake up, unless you wake up super early, and gives you a sense of what the day is going to look like. All right, a couple of stories that want to touch on that you may not hear in other places. First off, you hopefully have heard, at the very least, that there's some legal action going on with the former president. Now, this is an interesting situation. There's a lot of stories out there right now. Trump is supposedly, according to Politico, confiding in allies that he intends to run again in 2024 with one contingency, that he still has a good bill of health. I mean, he bought one last time, so I'm sure he could get one if he wants to this time. So Trump is going to be there, and what that's doing is creating a cascading effect on a bunch of things. It's implicating the January 6th commission. It is also, that could end up providing at least some impetus for filibuster reform. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the other thing that it's doing is it's putting, this is an odd, just put a pin in that. It's creating an odd disincentive for the DOJ. And I will explain. You've heard the story, obviously, that on Tuesday night, the Manhattan District Attorney convened a special grand jury to hear evidence in the investigation, the criminal investigation of the Trump Organization. This is after we heard that the New York State Attorney General was working with that same Manhattan DA on possible criminal case in addition to the civil case they're working on. It's just a matter of time before we heard about the special grand jury. But one other thing that sort of got lost at the beginning of the week was the ongoing court cases that are coming out of a federal judge who both handled the Manafort case and this is, I'm talking about Amy Berman Jackson. She's U.S. District Court. and looking into the way that the Mueller investigation was handled writ large. All of these things are tied together. And this judge is rather upset about what she was told by the Justice Department and the actions of the Justice Department in terms of why the Mueller investigation did not charge the president with a crime of obstruction. This is, and so she has been calling for the release of this memo. In fact, she asked the Justice Department to provide it. The present Justice Department, under Merrick Garland, has now filed a motion to basically prevent the release of this memo. It is a 2019 memo written in March. It was written by two senior Justice Department officials who are with the Office of Legal Counsel. This is sort of the government's lawyers essentially assessing what is and is not. They're doing interpretations of the law. So the Office of Legal Counsel can be really abused. John Yoo famously wrote a memo justifying the torture regime under the Bush administration from the Office of Legal Counsel. According to Amy Berman Jackson, she issued an opinion earlier this month saying that she had read the memo. She wants it publicly released. And she says it showed that Barr was disingenuous when he cited that memo as key to his conclusion that Trump had not broken the law and should not be charged. She said further, the reason why he was disingenuous is because department lawyers, the Justice Department, essentially lied to her about the internal discussions that surrounded the memo. So the present Justice Department, out of fear of politicizing their department and maintaining the sort of institutional integrity, is defending these lawyers or that memo, protecting it from being released. They released 2 pages of it, a partially unredacted version.
Although the redacted part seems to be the meat.
Well, the parts that they didn't reveal are obviously the ones that she wants to be made public. And here's what's going on here. This is a part of the memo. Over the course of the special counsel's investigation, this is written by Steve Engel, who is the head of the departments of OLC, and Edward O'Callaghan, who was a senior department official who was involved in supervising the Mueller investigation. It was addressed to Barr, and there's a little bit of CYA here. Cover your you-know-whats. Over the course of the special counsel's investigation, we have previously discussed these issues within the department among ourselves, with the Deputy Attorney General, and with you since your appointment, as well as the special counsel and his staff. Our conclusions are the product of those discussions, as well as our review of the report. This is the key. Bill Barr made his decision supposedly, and as he told the judge and as he told the American public, by taking input from the Office of Legal Counsel. But what is clear from this memo, and I imagine be made even more clear if we saw the redacted part, was that Bill Barr was part of developing the theory of why they shouldn't charge it. And this is...
And the theory in and of itself, right? The reasoning for not charging Trump is the bulk of what is redacted. Exactly.
And there are two elements. One is the long-standing position by the OLC that a sitting president cannot be prosecuted. However, this same memo says, but you can bring charges.